You know what he say in sports? One moment in time can change a complete franchise. Entering the 82-83 postseason into the 1983 draft, a lot of good prospects were available to the also ran Detroit Red Wings, who were struggling at the bottom of their division for a number of campaigns. He tried different things, even bringing Roque Vachon and Gilles Gilbert in as their number one goalie. Didn't work. Tried a bunch of young players, tried a bunch of veterans, didn't work. But we're going to talk today about the 82-83 season and why it led them to draft Steve Yzerman. By the way, just a gentle reminder, Steve Yzerman wasn't number one draft pick of the 83, although to many, he is the number one from that draft. The top five were quite interesting because three of them were Americans. Brian Lawton was taken by the North Stars, the first American to be drafted number one overall. The great Sylvain Turgeon, taken by Hartford, number two. Pat LaFontaine, taken by the Islanders in a trade with New Jersey. With Yzerman going fourth and Tom Barrasso fifth, another big American. And that was a shift with a trade with LA. He was a big high school star. But how did Steve Yzerman become the number four pick of Detroit Red Wings? Well, here's why. Detroit had a very, very rough season in that campaign where only John Ogrodnik and a few other players, including Danny Gare, really deserved to be on the team. There was a lot of older players. It was a rotten mix. Now, they ended up fifth in the Norris division with a rough 21-44-15 record, 263 goals scored, but 344 against. Now, the GM, Jim DeVillano, put Nick Polano as head coach, with Danny Gare as captain, but with no alternates. Now, the Joe Louis Arena that year wasn't packed. If anything, it was only averaging 12,900 fans per game. Now, after 50 years of Norris family ownership, Bruce A. Norris, who had himself owned the Red Wings since his father passed in 52, sold the Red Wings to Little Caesars Pizza founder Mike Ilitch. Ilitch then proceeded to fire general manager Jim DeVillano away from the three-time defending Stanley Cup champion Islanders. Nick Polano was hired as head coach, coming from the Buffalo Sabres, where he was an AC under Scotty Bowman. Now, under this new management, the Red Wings opted to modernize their uniforms. The crew collars were replaced with V-necks, and the logo was realigned to be centered on the jersey instead of having the wheel centered underneath the collar. The most striking change, however, was in the players' names and numbers. The Red Wings adopted vertically arched lettering for the names on the back, as well as a fanciful number font with flourishes reminiscent of their word mark. This unique number font will only last 1 year, though it would return for the Red Wings' 2014 Winter Classic contests, while the vertically arched names remain a part of the Red Wings uniform to this day, and look quite good. So here's a trade. They were put in like the Norris division, literally, even though the NFL Norris is a little bit more prominent. And they really struggled. Chicago in division with 104 points. Stars were second with 96. The Maple Leafs third with 68. The Blues had 65, but the Red Wings in a really terrible season again, 21, 44, and 15. And there were minus 81 on the net. A very rotten start to the season. They went 0-6-1. Main real reason why they had played 4 games on the road even before they came home for their second road start, where they bet the Sabres 6-2. But again, the losing streak continued. They only got their 4th win of the season all the way in December. November was a terrible month, and November the month of our discontent, because when you don't win for a whole month, people tend to notice. They started 3-9 3-9-1 during the month, and ended the month 3-17-6, tying 5 contests. They did have a 4-game win streak in early December, and had only lost 1 game in the month until December 27th, where they lost 8-4 to the Flyers. So they got back to 8-19-10. However, the tie bug followed them. They went to 18-19-11, and from there it was down yet again. Between January 2nd and all the way to almost the February 10th, they only won 3 games, including an upset victory against the Oilers on January 1983, the future Stanley Cup finalists against Islanders that year. So As of the season, another end of season losing streak really hurt them. They had a passable record of 20, 37, 15 on March 16th, but from then it was all downhill, losing 9-7 to Edmonton, 6-3 to Vancouver, 7-1 to the Rangers, 7-5 to Minnesota, 6-0 to Chicago, and 4-0, 4-2 to the Maple Leafs. But he outlasted the Capitals at home 8-7 on April 1st, April Fool's Day 83. They would have lost 8 straight games end of season. Now, this was the fifth season in a row that the Red Wings failed to qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last time to get in, of course, was against Montreal. Now, John O'Grady was a rising star at the time, and he put up some really decent numbers. Only it was a plus 11 based on 41 goals and 44 assists. Reed Larson, the big defenseman, had 74 points. Danny Gare, still consistent, 26 counters, 61 points. A young Mark Osborne had 43 points. Willie Huber had a terrible season on defense, minus 34. They're all reliable. Walt McKechnie had 43 points, and the young Mike Blaisdell had 41. But they had a lot of older players too. Dwight Foster, Reggie Leach was there for the whole season. Ivan Boldarev as well, playing mostly center. Stan Weir coming over from Edmonton and Toronto. The Jim Schoenfeld again towards the tail of his career. Played 57 games with 1 goal and 10 assists. Colin Campbell, the former Edmonton Oiler, was there as well. And Jules Jobert played 20 games towards the tail end of his career. Now, goaltending was a big problem for Detroit yet again. Credo Mikolev had some good results with 11, 13, and 5 record, but Greg Stephan, 6, 16, and 9. Gilbert, one of his worst seasons ever, 4, 14, and 1, 85 goals against, 4.49 average. And the last gasp of Jim Rutherford, a longtime Red Wing, he lost 1 game, giving up 7 contests. Now, the draft in 82 was not too bad, picking up people like Murray Craven, Craig Cox, Claude Villegrin, a late draft pick as well, the former Canadian Olympic player. Now, we're going to talk about the 83 NHL entry draft, and I want you to understand how important this was to Detroit. Now, getting Yzerman, you could easily have taken Tom Barrasso, but I think they were looking more for offense or a leader because he was good with the Peterborough Petes. Now, Detroit was always looking for them, and a key right winger, Lane Lambert, was taken in the second round, which he was a decent player as well. But the key one was in round 3. He needed somebody to protect Steve Yzerman, and who did he take? The class of the Brantford Alexander's the great Bob Probert. So those first 3 picks were tremendous. Now Detroit knew they were going to have to continue on looking at maybe Europe. Round 5, another great draft pick, Peter Klima from Czechoslovakia, and Klima was an effective player. And unfortunately, round 6 he took a pussy. No offense to Chris Pussy, one of the strangest names in history. And any draft that has all those players. Now he did have a chance to take Fedisov as well in round 8, but the Devils got them before Detroit had a chance to draft. So all in all, a good draft for Detroit. And of course, the Grim Reaper Stu Grimson was taken by Detroit from Regina Dronapats in round 10. So this was a draft that pretty well saved the Red Wings, not only Yzerman, but Probert, and a tremendous selections for the squad. Now, you're saying to yourself, what did Stevie Yzerman mean to Detroit Red Wings? Well, it's very simple. He went from also-rans to evidently probably one of the better teams of that division. And we're going to look at this very quickly to show you the difference that Steve Yzerman made, because they went from pretty well also-rans or third division to be solid contenders. Now the 83-84 season, and this is just in one campaign, he jumped all the way to third place, 31, 42, and 7, 69 points. And their goals were up almost 300. Danny Gare was around, and Yzerman led the way with 87 points, including 39 goals, and Greg Stefan had a better season. What really helped Detroit, ladies and gentlemen, was their big start in the first Yzerman year. They were 6-3-2 to start, and they were getting more consistent in the second half of the season. They had a 5-game win streak, which I think really helped them. The unfortunate loss to St. Louis in the best of 5 series in 4 games, so this was a sign of something really good coming for the Red Wings. Now, that team, again, Boldarev, he had a career resurgence, 35 goals. But Ron Duguay came over for the Rangers, had 33 counters. Ogrodnik was strong again. Brad Park, too, showed up, so they were using also Danny Gare had a consistent play with 13 goals. Eddie Johnson, the former Ranger. Bob Mano over from Toronto. And Rick McClish also showed up. So they were trying a mixture of older players and newer players. Even Andre Saint-Laurent was there. And this, the great Teddy Nolan showed up for a few games as well. Now, the goaltending was a little bit more solid because Eddie Mio worked as a backup coming up over from Edmonton. But Greg Stefan showed really strong play as the number one with 50 goals. But any team that has Yzerman, Duguay, Boldarev, Brad Park, Danny Gare, Reed Larson, pretty good talent. And Rick McLeish had some leadership as well. Now the idea, the last 3 games are one of the best of 5. My apologies. And it's weird about Yzerman too, because you wouldn't think one player can help you make the playoffs. He didn't have a good defensive season, but what really helped Detroit that year, he had 13 goals on the power play, which was pretty big. So I remember Detroit coming in Montreal. I think it was I can find it right here for you. The date. I do remember him coming into Montreal. Yeah, the January 5th start of the new year. Even though Montreal had bet them 5-1, they came in on a 4-game winning streak. And the announcer, I think it was Bob Cole, said, you got to watch this young Yzerman. So to watch Yzerman play so successfully in that first season with Detroit was quite a thrill, because they figured after that winning streak, they went into a bad losing skid that they lost 8 straight between November 30th and December 15th. Everybody was saying, how long is this going to last? But they literally went almost the whole month of December without winning. And the key one was a 9-2 shellacking of Toronto on December 23rd, which put him back on the stead. But for the amount of losing streaks they had that year, losing 9 straight in January, like I said, it was weird. They were a streaky team. You win 4 or 5 straight, lose 9 straight, lose 4 straight, win 5. It was a heavy up and down, as we say. But ladies and gentlemen, I think the big victory for Detroit, in my personal opinion, were the ones against Toronto, because those are the key ones, because they had a hard time staying ahead of the people who were chasing them in the standings. And they almost finished in second place, which is shocking. The Blues only had 71 points. They almost came in second place. But Toronto, again, one of the worst seasons for Toronto. And this was a time, ladies and gentlemen, that teams were giving up 4 goals a game. There was a lot of counters in this contest. Now, Kelly Kissel was also in that team, too, a good talent. So you see the building of the Detroit franchise, the Jacques Demers era, as we go along. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. One player can make a big difference. And no, Steve Yzerman wasn't first overall. We got to remind everything like that. He was considered the top Canadian drafted that year. But if Detroit would have taken Tom Barrasso, the whole Detroit universe would be a lot different. And we got WDIV from Detroit as our cable channel when N1 Cable came in Northern New Brunswick. And the first thing we saw, besides Morton Downey Jr., no joke by the way, was a promotion about Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings. Because, Little Caesars and all that. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of how Steve Yzerman saved Detroit. Sort of like how Godzilla killed Tokyo, but how Steve Yzerman saved Detroit. If you like what you're doing here with our Red Wings podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. But if you like the Detroit Red Wings in 2024, it all comes down to Stevie Yzerman showing up in '83 at the Montreal Draft, and he was looking in the camera and he said, "I'm looking forward to being in Detroit." because who knew it? Because we thought Barrasso was a better player, and he ended up being, more successful for a while. But imagine if Buffalo would have took Steve Yzerman when he played with Pat LaFontaine down the road. See, I'm still surprised Toronto Maple Leafs or Montreal Canadiens didn't trade up, give Detroit a bunch of bag of pucks to get him. But I knew for sure that Yzerman was going to be the best player of the draft. I saw him play in junior, and I said, "This is a guy another Gretzky, or like another Messi, or one of those, a winner." Right? Anyway, and he's got the rings to prove it. Thanks for listening. Bye.